so I won't worry about that one. And so just so you guys know, because you guys probably don't know me from Adam, I've talked with a few of you this morning, but that's about it. And so I'm just going to introduce myself, tell you a little bit about myself before I get started. My name is Nicholas James Barnett. I come from a family of Barnetts and people that have been pastors, teachers, whatever. And most of my family lives in Missouri right now, or at least my immediate family. I'm going to Union College. I'm a junior theology major. And I have been here once before. I don't think I've ever been in the actual church, but I came over to Enterprise Academy, I think it was this last year, to do a Youth for Youth. So that's me. And however, I don't think that's the most important part of this today. So I'm going to have a word of prayer. So please bow your heads again. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for what you do in our lives and for what you're willing to do. And I pray, Lord, that today will be no exception, and that today, right now, you will pour out your words through me, and that we may all hear what you have for us to hear. Please just be with us now. In your holy name, amen. So I've got to spill a little bit. I love to talk about something specific, and I'm going to talk about it right now. And so please bear with me. I'm a little excited. You see, one of my favorite things in life is God, and what He does for us, because He's given us so much. He gives each and every one of us so much, and He gives gifts, He gives talents, He gives strengths, He gives all kinds of different personalities that can work together for His glory. And when He does, it's so great because He does it in a way so that we can work together. So that we can have churches where we can work together with our personality differences, with our different strengths, because sometimes strengths may collide, but He still helps us to work together anyway, in spite of that. And so, one of the things that I love that just gets me excited is talking about people's strengths, okay? And God has blessed so many people with so many different things. Some with, let's say, talking, like speaking, just words in general. Some people are blessed with math, learning how to do stuff that I don't do at all. Like, I don't even touch that stuff. But they're so good at it. And God has blessed society through them. People that are good with hospitality, that do things that I also cannot do at all. And I just appreciate it so much. God works through different types of people to do different types of things. And it's the same way with churches. Different churches have different types of strengths. When you walk into a church, some churches you'll walk in and you'll be able to tell what their strength is. You might walk into a church and say, wow, this church has really got enough dough to make a big difference in their community. You walk into some churches, oh, this church is like rapidly growing from, like, let's say, different types of evangelistic series, or maybe this church, their greatest development is their children, and they have a huge army of children, which, by the way, you guys are really blessed when it comes to children. You guys have a lot of kids. So, and so when I go to a church to preach, I ask the pastor, hey, so what would you say is the greatest strength of your church? Because that's what I would like to talk about, is the strengths of a church. And when I asked for this church, I got one of my all-time favorite responses of all. Like, it blew me away. He was just one word. He was like, "These people are kind, man." He didn't say that. That's my words. But he was like, kindness. Their strength is kindness. I have an extremely kind church, which, by the way, that gets me excited too, because not very many churches these days are actually kind. That is so hard to find, and I am so excited to be here and to walk in and find out that it's true, or to see that it's true. And so I would just like to talk about some different times when God has given people strengths, all right, successes, kindness specifically. We'll get into that in a second. But statistically speaking, the most successful people ever in history, like if we're talking like heroes in the past, if we're talking modern day heroes, if we're talking financially successful, the one thing that connects them all is that they all figured out what they were strong at, and they did it. And they did it as much as they could, and they did it better and better and better, because that was their focus. When someone focuses on their weaknesses, they don't do nearly as well. And I think one of the, and the Bible backs this up, just so you know. The Bible backs this up when Jesus chooses his disciples. Now granted, yes, he did not choose those who were considered the spiritual, strong, like Pharisees and these people that knew their stuff. But he chose people for their strengths. Like for instance, Peter, he had a gift that was not being very well used. It hadn't been well trained. And that was passion. Peter was passionate. We see that a ton when Jesus says, you have to have your feet washed to be a part of me. He says, wash all of me, man. Everything. I give it all. Peter was passionate. All right? Now passion can come about in a lot of ways. Sometimes when passion isn't the focus of the person that has a lot of passion, they often become maybe angry because people get onto them about being passionate about different things or whatever the case may be. But in reality, a lot of times angry people are just passionate people that have been misdirected, misguided. And so, and it's the same thing with our strengths. Let's say, have you ever met that friend that is so nice to everybody? They are just the sweetest person in the whole world. Everybody loves that friend. But at the same time, a lot of times we get taken advantage of when we're really super nice and sweet. And so what could be this great strength and is a great strength gets used and abused and doesn't become the great that it could be. Now, so I'm going to talk about somebody that kindness was one of their strengths. Now, I've never had the opportunity to talk about this subject, as in kindness as one's strength. But David had the strength of kindness. Now, granted, God really blessed David with a lot of different things. Okay? And for instance, his talents as far as music, his talents as far as war, his talents as far as leadership, but also he had a very kind heart. And so we see this a lot. Now, so in 2 Samuel chapter 9 is where we're going to start when it comes to his story. But just to refresh real quick while you're going there, just to refresh. So David, boy shepherds his father's sheep. Boy gets asked, hey, can I dedicate you? Oh, not asked. Hey, you're going to be king someday. Samuel leaves. Boy grows up a little bit. Boy goes to war, because boys go to war. And then boy gets a reputation while doing what he does for being good at war and for being good at music. So then someone hears about him, right? Saul needs somebody to sing. King needs singer. Singer has a reputation for singing and for war. Gets brought in, says, hey, I can do this. Sings well. King likes him. King loves him. Then people go off to war like kings always do. And boy goes back home because now he's a musician. Boy comes back. Boy sees hero. Boy beats hero. Boy becomes hero. Boy becomes man. Man becomes scared because king, who's king, man, it wants man dead. Man runs because that's what you do when someone attempts to kill you in close areas. So he takes off, he hides, gets a bigger sword, because he gets Goliath's sword, in case you didn't know that. So boy becomes man, man runs from king, king chases man, man plays with the Philistines, fights for the Philistines, with the Philistines, against the Philistines, comes back right about the time when king dies. So now boy, man, king takes his throne, and here we have David in his first years as a king. Okay? Now remember the part where king tried to kill boy? That was the thing. remember that as I tell the story. So, read along if you'd like in chapter 9. In verse 1 it says, "Now David said, 'Is there still anyone who is left in the house of Saul that I..." Oh, Saul was king, by the way, previous king. Kindness of for Jonathan's sake. "And there was a servant of the house of Saul whose name was Ziba. So when they had called him to David, the king said to him, 'Are you Ziba?' He said, 'At your service.' Then the king said, 'Is there,'" king being David, "then the king said, 'Is there not still someone of the house of Saul to whom I may show kindness of God?' And Ziba said to the king, 'There is still a son of Jonathan who is lame in his feet.' So the king said to him, 'Where is he?' And Ziba said to the king, 'Indeed, he is at such and such and such and such.' And then the king sent for said person. And then now when Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, had come to David, he fell on his face, prostrate himself. Then David said, 'Mephibosheth.' And he answered, 'Here is your servant.' So David said to him, 'Do not fear, for I will surely show you kindness for Jonathan your father's sake, and will restore to you all the land of Saul your grandfather, and you shall eat bread of my table continually.'" All right, so basically what happens, king has son made a friend with a boy back in the day, and so they're real tight. He's being nice to previous king's grandson, which, by the way, not normal. Normally, when boy man king takes place of king, boy man king destroys all remnants and or memory of king, which is why it's often very hard to track a lot of the ancient kings, because the guy after them didn't want you to remember them. So, but we don't see this with David. We don't see this at all. In fact, David does almost the opposite. He takes and he says, "Hey, so that guy that tried to kill me, you're his grandson and son of my best friend. I'm going to help you out. I'm going to help you out a lot." So we see a lot of kindness here, but the kindness is, strangely enough, the kindness isn't what I want to focus on today. What I'd like to focus on today is, what was it that enabled David's kindness? Now, obviously, there's like 1,000 answers to this, because there's 1,000 different ways to answer almost every question. And to be honest, I'm going to be a little bit... there's only one answer I'm looking for. There's one out of those thousands that I'm looking for. So, do you guys have any answers? Like, any suggestions as to what it was that brought about this kindness? What enabled this kindness? What allowed for it? Nope, he didn't raise his hand. All right. Well, so I'm just going to take another look at it, and then I'll let you try again. That's fine. We're going to go to 2 Peter now. And Peter, like I said before, he's kind of passionate. He's also kind of blatant. He doesn't beat around the bush very well, which also means that he packs a lot of words into small spaces sometimes. And so sometimes people get lost. Like I'm lost right now, somewhere in the New Testament. There we go. All right, so 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 5. He just gives a blessing. He starts off like Paul usually does. Blessings to you, because I love you, and that's why I'm sending you this letter. So this epistle from Peter is no different. Sends them a blessing. And a part of his blessing in verse 5 is, but also, because he's just adding to the blessing now, for this very reason, giving all diligence, asking for God to be giving all diligence, and add to your faith virtue, to virtue knowledge, to knowledge self-control, to self-control, perseverance, to perseverance, godliness, to godliness, brotherly kindness, and to brotherly kindness, love. So in this, he's suggesting that God give all these different things to them. But he does it in a different way than is normally listed out in the Bible. What he does is he says, hey, I hope he gives you this one so that he can give you this next one. You see that? And to your knowledge, self-control. And to your self-control, perseverance. So after he's given you self-control, I want him to give you perseverance also. Okay? And so he's laying out sort of like a foundation, like a framework. And so when we look at this, down near the end of the list is brotherly kindness. All right? Like, for instance, Jonathan and David had. All right? Brotherly kindness. What in this verse could we say was the enabler of these, of brotherly kindness? What? That's right. Love. Love is definitely the enabler. Any other answers? All right. So in this, love is the enabler. All right? Now, here's the great thing about this little verse. This little verse is so cool to me because he sets it up, right? And then he doesn't actually say this, but if you look at it, it starts with diligence, and then it goes to faith, and then virtue, and then knowledge, self-control, perseverance, godliness, brotherly kindness, and love, right? Okay, what is the most important part of having love for someone? If you love someone and you want to act on your love, what do you have to do? You have to do. And so, what is the first one is diligence. He asks for diligence first because in order to have these other ones, in order to love someone well, in order to have a wonder, because love is the greatest motivation to do anything ever, right? And so here he's saying in order to be able to show and do all these things, you have to be diligent with those things. You have to do with those things, okay? So, and what do we see in the story? In the story, it's the same way with David. In order for him to give kindness to Mephibosheth, first he has to go get Mephibosheth. The very first verse starts off with, "Is there no one left of Saul's family who I can show kindness to?" He's asking someone, can you find someone that I can give kindness to? Can you go find someone that I can give kindness to? I have kindness towards this person, but I don't know them yet. I don't even know if they exist yet. Okay? That's what David is trying to say here. And so my question then is pretty simple, both to myself and to anyone else that is listening to this story. If we were to apply this to ourselves, would the suggestion being that we have been gifted, graced by God with a brotherly kindness, or even love, what then remains for us to learn from this story? Now let me rephrase that. If I have brotherly kindness with my brothers, with my comrades, with those who I share an assembly with, a church with, then what? What's next? Next is to be diligent, which is funny because it's at the beginning of the list. But next is to be diligent to find those people to give kindness to bring into the same brotherly kindness as we share. You see, God has gifted us, has granted us, has blessed you guys with such a great kindness, which is something the world wants. It's something everyone in this whole lifetime searches for. We look for it. How does the song go? Searching for love in all the wrong places. People are looking for it. People want it. We want it. That's why God gave it to us. He wouldn't give us a gift we don't want. So then, in my mind, this is once again like where we started. This is where I get excited. Because most churches don't have the opportunity to say, we have kindness. I care about people. I love people. And now I want to share it. A lot of churches aren't to that maturity. But I hear you guys are. And so, my question is, what are you doing with it? What are you doing with your kindness? Who are you showing your kindness to? Who outside of the church are you showing your kindness to? I think it's so important and it's so exciting when we start to think about what we can do for our community, for the people outside of our church, how we can show our kindness. And so I guess it's a challenge, okay? My challenge is very simple, and it's easy. It's very easy. Brainstorm how to show our kindness to others. How can I show my kindness to other people outside the church? How can I find ways to get involved with my community and share kindness, not just to my community, but to the individuals of my community? How can I share kindness with my friends, with the people that I spend my days with? Now, I'm going to take a wild venture and say that most of you probably already do. My question is then, how? And if how, then how will you continue to come up with new ideas on how to do it? How can you be intentional about it? So think of it like this. If every family goes home tonight, and maybe for your evening worship or devotions as a family, and this may be a family of just one, like me, if I go home to my family, I'm going to be in my dorm room. But go home to our families and make a list, be intentional, and write, okay, here are some brainstorming ideas of how I can show kindness to other people outside of my church. All right? Then let's actually take it one step further. What if we made a list of individuals we actually know, like actual people that we know outside of the church, that we can share kindness to this week? So that we literally know, we know exactly what we're going to do. We have a goal. We have a set goal. This is how I'm going to show kindness this week, and these are the people I'd like to share it with. Now, here's the second part, or the third part of this goal, or of this challenge to you. Now, those people, let's not just show them kindness in our everyday life, because I'm guessing most of you already share kindness to a plethora, a long list of people each week. Okay? I'm gonna assume that list could go out the door. All right? But what if we invited them to come share their kindness with us here? That's a great. By the way, when I walked into your sanctuary, I would just like to say, this is great. I felt, I don't know if at home is the word for it. I just felt in awe and just excited to be here. This is such a genius design. But anyway, the important part is, if we are a body of believers that is kind and caring and we truly love people, when we invite them, they are going to want to be here. They're going to want to stay, just like we want to stay. So in case you don't believe that they're going to want to stay, in case you're like, well, I don't know if they'll really like my church. Well, do you really like your church? I hope so, since you showed up today. Everybody invites at least one person. Everybody. Now, I don't mean okay, yay, my family of 6 people just invited one person. Yes! Score! I'm not trying to down that. But let's go for each individual. asks one person. And they may turn you down. It's not all that likely, but it is likely that someone will get turned down. I've been turned down. But if you do, hopefully it won't be a terrible experience because you will have just brought up your church, and hopefully you'll get to talk about it a little bit more than that. And so it hopefully won't be a terrible experience. In fact, I personally don't believe anyone here will have a terrible experience if they invite one person. All right, so everyone invites one person. Now this is, even the children, you have so many children, and they can invite people too. Let them know. This is a great idea. So those are the challenges that God has brought to me to share with you, okay? These are my ideas, all right? This is brainstorming, if you will. And so brainstorm together, then brainstorm about specific people, and invite one person for next week. Oh, and by the way, just in case you want to be an overachiever, invite, I want to say like the least of these, invite like someone that like is just so socially unacceptable. Like that would not go in, like that has tattoos on their face or like scars on their wrist. Like just something where everyone that sees them is like, sweet, you just came to church. That's exciting. So that's my challenge to you today, you guys. Invite somebody, show them kindness, and brainstorm about how to do it again. So I'm going to pray real quick. We're going to have a song. Someone's singing the closing hymn. And if not, I will, but I'm sure you won't like it. 2:13.